So Denver, Colorado is paying for the migrant crisis with layoffs that they don't want you to call layoffs. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Denver, Colorado, and the migrant crisis. Now, this particular thing has affected a lot of other big cities in the country, New York City, Chicago, etc., and they have had to reallocate some funds, cut some funds from here, take some funds from there to pay for it. Denver's no different. Now, they are basically laying city employees off to pay for the migrant crisis, although technically they're not laying them off. Now, if you work at a place and you're getting 40 hours a week, you're feeding your family, you're doing whatever you got to do, put food on the table, and then they say, hey, you know what? You're not going to have any hours anymore anytime soon. Probably not ever again. Maybe you get some hours back, I don't know, in a year or two. Who knows? There's no definite timetable for you to be able to, get your hours back. Is that considered a layoff? If I'm working, getting 40 hours a week for 3, 4, 5 years, then I'm getting 0 hours a week and nobody's saying when I'm going to get my hours back. What is that called? Maybe a temporary layoff, a permanent layoff. Don't call it a layoff. That's going to be bad press for Denver. To say Denver, Colorado lays off city employees to pay for the migrant crisis is bad PR. That's pretty much what's going on here. It's a PR spin on layoffs to pay for the migrant crisis. Now, before I go any further, let's get into the actual news clip. If you want to see the clip in full without my commentary, link, as always, will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
The city of Denver does not want headlines that it's laying off employees in order to pay for the migrant crisis. But the city is telling hourly employees that they may have their hours reduced to 0.
So, what is that? If it's not a layoff, then what is it? At best, it's a temporary layoff. Maybe they're going to bring you back, but there's no timetable. So what are you going to do in the meantime to put food on the table? Are you able to get unemployment benefits? Because normally, if you don't get fired and you still have a job, you're not able to receive unemployment benefits. But let's see how this whole thing plays out, shall we?
Just don't call them layoffs. Here's Mark Salinger.
When we got a tip that employees at this rec center were being told they no longer had jobs, we asked the city if there were new layoffs that hadn't been announced yet. Can you confirm if this is accurate? I asked the mayor's office and Parks and Rec department. Their answer was meant to assure us that we were wrong. No layoffs, they said. However, some employees may have their hours reduced to the point where they may not receive any hours. They're not calling it layoffs, but it definitely sounds like some people may not have jobs anymore.
If you are a city employee, this is in essence a layoff until you notify otherwise, because you don't have any more hours. You don't have any more work. You're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, waiting to see what happens next.
These direct impacts today on DMV do not involve layoffs, nor do Parks and Rec involve layoffs of our current employees. We will have folks that are hourly workers that will have fewer hours.
When Mayor Mike Johnston announced earlier this month that the city would cut budgets, he warned hourly employees would lose some work. Now we know they could lose all their work.
I don't want to hide the fact that this matters a lot to those people that are on the front lines.
Of course. If you're working and all of a sudden you're not working anymore, yeah, it's going to be a problem, especially when the purpose of cutting their hours to 0, basically cutting their job, at least for now, the purpose of that is to pay for the migrants.
The Parks and Rec department tells us everyone from front desk workers to coaches to lifeguards are considered on-call employees that could be impacted by these cuts. The department has been told to cut $4.3 million to help the city pay for the migrant crisis.
They're saying it right there. $4.3 million must be cut, reallocated, whatever you want to call it, to pay for the migrant crisis. So to scrounge this money up, we're just going to fire you. Well, not fire, not lay off. We're going to cut your 40 hours a week to 0 hours a week into the foreseeable future to pay for the migrants. And since the migrant crisis has no real end in sight. As long as Denver, New York City, Chicago, etc., as long as they're sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, this is not going to stop. So it's always going to be a need for this money. And as if things escalate in the warmer months, you're going to need more money. So you're going to need more cuts.
Johnston said today it hasn't been decided which jobs will have their hours cut and by how much.
We have not made any final decisions yet on cuts other ones that we announced already. And so all of our departments, all of our agencies, we're going to have to find a way to prioritize.
Employees who have had their hours reduced to the point where they aren't earning enough money to still work are allowed to apply for unemployment benefits in the same way as if they were laid off.
Now, that's pretty interesting. I didn't think you could do that. I thought that you had to actually be fired to apply for unemployment benefits. But I wonder what the catch is, because I feel like there's a lot more to the story than what he's saying. But let me let him finish.
Information posted on the state's website indicates they would be eligible to receive unemployment benefits from the state. The mayor also hinted today that the city will be reducing the services offered to newly arriving migrants. Kyle, although he didn't offer any specifics, he said that that would be coming sometime in the next couple of days.
Well, we're going to see about that. I mean, here's a novel idea. How about reduce the services to migrants down to zero rather than reducing the hours of your city employees down to zero? I think that'd be the better solution. How about you guys? What do you think? Let's keep on going.
I understand why it's not technically a layoff, but it is essentially a layoff. If you're working 35 hours a week, you get taken to 0 hours a week and you can apply for unemployment. This honestly reminds me of under the Hancock administration when they would do homeless sweeps and they would tell journalists in town, don't call them sweeps. We like different words.
Sure. If you don't have a job, I mean, when you boil it down, if you say, hey, I'm earning enough money for 35, 40 hours a week and now you're earning 0, it feels like you lost your job. And today, the Johnson administration, we've talked a lot about House 1000, the mayor's efforts to bring people inside, solve homelessness. They are now rebranding that. It is no longer House 1000. I have to look at what it is. It's called All In Mile High now.
All in Mile High.
We're told it's the same priority, same way how it operates. It's just now not House 1000. It's All In Mile High.
It's tough.
Like why? Like this is that communist type stuff, changing words, definitions, rephrasing things. Don't call it a layoff. It's just, they just had the hours cut. It's just a reduction in hours for hourly employees, but don't call it a layoff to pay for the migrant crisis. Don't say House 1000 because we got a bunch of these homeless migrants as well. We got to get everybody all inclusive, all in Mile High.
To keep up with the words that they want us to use on the news, it's a good thing we don't actually do that. All right.
Hilarious. Shout out to him. Again, this is Kyle Clark with Next over on 9 News Denver. My man over here is smiling. Great reporting for these guys here. So, yeah, shout out to Denver for firing, reimagining the hours that their city employees to get to pay for the $4.5 million bill that the migrants have accumulated so far. And I'm sure there's going to be more money as the demand increases. Right now, it's still kind of cold. It's snowing out there in Denver, Mile High City, right by the mountains. And as we approach the summer months, they're going to get more and more of these people. New York City's pretty much filled up. Chicago's filling up, and it's cold there too. So again, once it gets warm and we get really into the crux of the illegal alien season, you're going to see a lot more of this kind of stuff happening. But as I close, I'll say this. I'm glad we don't have that thing happening here in Tennessee, Georgia, that area. I'm not seeing busloads of migrants just getting dropped off in the middle of town. That's not really a thing. We're not a sanctuary city. We're not a sanctuary state, unlike those other places. Again, you got Mike Johnston, the mayor of Denver, Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, all complaining about the migrant crisis, all having to do things to try and pay for the migrant crisis, but they're not getting down to the core of the problem, which is their sanctuary city status and sanctuary state status in Colorado, Illinois, and New York State, respectively. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on Denver, Colorado, cutting hourly employees' hours to 0, essentially firing them at least temporarily to pay for the migrant crisis? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I mean, this is inevitable because these people cost a lot of money. These migrants, again, There was a study that came out from the House GOP, and they said since summertime of 2022 to right around right now, maybe the end of 23, so just about a year and a half, 16, 18 months, whatever, they said that the migrant crisis has cost the U.S. $450 billion, with it be $450 billion. Oh, ABL, they're coming here to work. They're being productive. They do jobs that Americans don't want to do. Well, if that's the case, I can't tell. Why do they cost so much money? If they were so industrious and they did all these jobs all the time and 100% of them did that, then they would not be such a big burden on the taxpayer financially. If they came and were able to generate their own economy, then there wouldn't be a cutting of expenses in New York City, Chicago, Illinois, Denver, Colorado to pay for them. If anything, we could increase spending or keep it the same. They are a burden upon us. That's the reality. We got too many of them just flooding into our country all at once. I'm not against legal immigration, but good grief, you can't just flood our southern border with people and expect for there to be no kind of consequence. You've seen the consequence happen right now in real time. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.